Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. This is Janie Charlo and Russell Bruce.
Hello, everybody out there.
So happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, happy harvest. We hope you guys are having an amazing week and enjoying this time with your family in gratitude and really taking this time just to reset and even make some plans for the year to come, because that's on the way as well. On this episode, we are talking about how to be open to everything and attached to nothing. And I think it's a good time to talk about this because we are at year's end. So we often kind of take a look at what we've done, what we haven't done, what we need to work better at in the next year. And then also just to take the time to see everything that we have done. But then it's also a good time to let things go, to detach, to get rid of things that it's just not working well for us. So we want to break that whole concept of being open to everything and attached to nothing on this podcast. So let's talk about, before we kind of get into how to do that, let's talk about why is this important? Why is this important? Why should we be open to everything and attached to nothing?
Well, personally, when I hear that, I think Dwayne Dyer did a podcast on this particular topic. And for me personally, I just think that in order for people to continue to evolve and to grow in all aspects of life, that you can't have these preconceived ideas and this set box of ideas and philosophies, as if you know everything. Like, so for example, when you go to grade school, right? If you learn everything you need to know in grade school, there's no need to go to middle school, high school. So it's a constant evolution and evolvement of information. So you're constantly compiling. But I think there's a study that says that 65% of people, once they graduate high school, they never read another book, And there's a saying that says when a person stops learning, that's the day they begin to die, because you're no longer growing at that point. So whether it's tied to personal relationships, how to deal with people, we have to constantly learn how to become more effective communicators. Like, there's tons of self-help books out there, tons of books on how to win friends and influence people. I think all that stuff is good because at some point in your life, you're gonna talk to another human being, and you're gonna have to be able to properly communicate and effectively communicate to get things done, to accomplish goals. As far as education is concerned, there's so many different things that can evolve and be better there. We went from an agricultural era to an industrial era. Now we're in a technological information era. So a lot of things that went on during the technological era in the 1600s, today it's not 100% applicable. So, and things like religion, if you have like a fixed set box of ideas and you don't leave room for growth, how do you learn something new? How do you evolve and become better? So that's pretty much the basis of this discussion. Like, how do we stay open to everything and attached to nothing? Like, your cup has to be empty and refilled with new information.
That's very true. So growth on all levels is pretty much what Russell was saying. I think it's important for unity and understanding. I also think it's important for healing. All right. We can't heal if we are attached to our old trauma and our old wounds. we will keep that stuff lodged in us, lodged in our hearts, lodged in our thoughts, lodged in our physical body, because that's how trauma shows up. It lodges literally in your cells, in your atoms, in your nerve endings, it lodges. So being open to everything and attached to nothing allows for healing, okay, on so many levels. I think it also allows for peace to grow. All right. I think peace is one of those things that we are all out here trying to keep. I know I do. And I really cater my life to maintaining my peace because that's so important to me. So I think being open to everything and attached to nothing allows for peace to come in. Also, it helps to raise consciousness, right? So that we could all come together in a oneness, because that's truly what, as a whole body of humanity, as a universal energy that we all tap into, there's a oneness. If you listen to people who have had near-death experiences, when their soul leaves their physical body, they go into the spiritual realm, everyone talks about a oneness. They become one with the flower. They become one with the people that are one with the body they're overlooking. So there's a oneness. And I think being open to everything and attached to nothing allows for the oneness, for us all to kind of get into that as well. And also, I think it's important, growth is important, but I want us to think about expansion, because if we can't get along, or if we can't accept the beliefs and values, or if we can't understand that information is constantly changing, how will we ever be ready for what's to come? What if there really are extraterrestrials out there and they're waiting for us to raise our consciousness so that they can meet us halfway? But if we can't even be open to new ideas, new beliefs, new customs, how are we ever going to expand to what could be out there waiting for us, humanity, to raise consciousness?
When we're still caught up on skin color, sex, age, nationalities, things of that nature.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's important that we all have to be open to everything and attached to nothing. So let's talk about some of the things that we're attached to. Let's talk about that. What are some of the things that we are attached to? What are some of the things that just come up at the top of your head?
Like in this society, one of the big things is it's race, the elephant in the room, and that's one of the things I'm going to be doing another podcast on, like within the next 24 hours. But it's, and the thing is, it's more historical than anything, because if you go back, 16, 1700s, things like that, the issues that were going on in the world were more based around religious differences and in nationality, things like that. It wasn't race. And recently it's become race. And there have been laws passed and, social philosophies that have been accepted, and they become social norms, so to me, that's something that is just greater conversations have to be had in order to overcome them. It's like the elephant that's over in the corner of the room that no one wants to deal with. And all it does is continues to fester and grow. And then one day you have a big powder keg and
Yeah.
And everything hits the fan. So that's one thing,
What about politics? We're
thing.
highly attached to that, and it keeps the duality up, it keeps the drama up, it keeps the separation up. And people have their beliefs, that's fine. I just think that we can't be so attached that we lose friendships, we lose relationships over political issues. Every time voting comes around, there's people literally letting go of friendships and all of that. I I just think that we can't be so attached that it hinders our growth. Because maybe the way your political party is doing something is outdated. Maybe new information is going to allow us to do something better, more efficient, and that'll be better for the whole body of humanity. Maybe. Would you be open to it? Would you be open to it?
Yeah, because right now, if we're all honest with ourselves and really look deeper, Democrat, Republican is two wings on the same bird.
It really is. And if we be honest with ourselves, it is another way to cause division and separation.
Divide and conquer it. Because at the end of the day, I personally can't tell you one elected official that really changed my life and what really went on inside of my house. Because at the end of the day, it's like I can't put all of my eggs in the basket of a politician that lies, that has more dirt in it than a sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't vote for myself. Like, a lot of us don't want to take control of the things in our own life and put it in the hands of someone else who 9 times out of 10, doesn't even have the ability to manage their own lives, let alone a state or a country. So, and I'm not saying that to turn people off from politics and things like that. To me, it's a necessary evil. It's needed in a society. But I just think we need to start voting for what's right, because right now it's not about Democrat, Republican, or even independent to say that. It's about what's right and what's wrong, about good and evil. Because right now, this country and this world is going to pieces
fast.
and we're trying to use the same methods that put us in the situation that we're in right now to fix it. And that's not about to happen.
Yeah, like the quote says, you can't stay in the same environment to heal that got you sick. So you have to change your environment to heal. So you can't stay or do the same things that got you sick in the first place. And I think this world is in a sick state. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place.
I think it was Einstein. He said, you can't fix.
I know it's a quote.
You can't fix a situation with the same mindset that created it.
Mm-hmm. So that's politics. Let's talk a little bit about when people are attached to things that define them. So titles, even like things that you're a mother, you're a father, your relationship, all these things, we shouldn't really let that become so attached, because what happens when that is taken from you? Who are you then?
Who are you?
And then what happens is people become very hurt. They become very crushed because they have defined themselves by whatever it was. And when it hits the fan and this definition is gone, then you're left with pieces and trying to put it together. And then that's how resentment and hurt and all these spiral of negative emotions come in, and it hardens your heart. So we can't be attached to things. Even, I'm a mother, but my son is growing. He's not 5 or 6. He's a teenager. I have to look at him now as a teenager, and I can't be attached to who he was at 5 or 6 years old. I have to become a different version as he's becoming a different version. So we can't even attach to the people we love. Like even Russell, this is who he is. In a year from now, he may grow into another person, and I have to be open to that as well. So we can't even become attached to those important roles that we play as well. Be open to everything and attached to nothing.
And we should in order for, like, say me and you, even for us to be better for one another, she should want me to be my best self, and I should want her to be her best self. So I can't be stuck at Russell 1.0 10, 15, 20 years from now. I have to constantly grow and evolve mentally, physically, spiritually, in order to not only better myself, but it keeps everything fresh. So we said this one time before, it's like, so every day, if I'm growing every day, if I'm reading, I'm praying, I'm meditating, I'm working out, I'm doing all these things, I'm studying scripture, I'm studying history, I'm doing all these things so that I can become better. You know what I'm saying? I'm expanding my vocabulary. I'm like studying other cultures and talking to people and just opening up. Like, so, you know, or even traveling a different route home or whatever. So you're expanding your horizons, you're becoming bigger, better, and more knowledgeable. That makes me a more interesting, or say an attractive person. So if I was the same person that I was at 18 today, that's boring. You're predictable. It's like you're very limited in conversation, and it's like you're very limited in your scope of what the world entails and what's needed in order to live a great life or a prosperous life. So it's like, I can't be attached to what I knew yesterday. I have to learn from what I knew yesterday, what I was able to win with and what I lost with, learn from it, move on, and start preparing for the future.
Yeah. I just want to mention culture. That's another thing that we become very attached to. I think that we have to know who we are. We have to, I think culture is so important. I love culture and I love experiencing different cultures. That's why I've always loved to travel, try different things. I'd rather say, hey, I tried it, I don't like it, than just to be like, no, I don't do that. Because you just never know. You never know what's gonna open you up to something that could be a passion or could take you down a whole different route. But we just can't be so attached to it that we are closed off to everything else. So, and I want to mention materialism. That's another big thing that we are attached to. And it's a big one, because if we were not attached to materialism, we probably wouldn't have so much of the issues right now. We have a lot of crime based on materialism. And it really comes from a mindset of lack, you know, and the truth is, if you know who you are on a spiritual level, you should never lack anything in your life, period. But our world has been so based on materialism as defining who we are, and we're so attached to our material possessions. Look at what happens when people break up and divorce. You know, I mean, it's all over material things for the most part.
It's a form of attachment.
Exactly, but we can't be attached to material things. It's so fleeting. It's so fleeting. I've started over 2-3 times and have no problems doing it. But my peace is what I'm going to always take with me, my consciousness. Like, no one could ever take that peace away from me. Material things come and go. So we can't be attached to material things like that.
Let's dissect that a little bit, because I heard somebody having this conversation before, and they talked about an ignorant person, like somebody who really doesn't know, right? A person who's not really evolving yet, that they tend to be very physical. Like, when they're upset, instead of having a conversation, they want to fight. They want to get physical, you know, and like, say, for example, in a relationship, instead of you know, being more romantic, things of that nature, they just want to have sex. They just want to be physical, because they only know how to express themselves in a physical way.
Very superficial,
Whereas
right?
when you evolve and you start understanding that you're a spiritual being having a physical experience, then you understand that working from the inside out, like developing your spirit, developing your consciousness, now, you become wiser, right? You become more romantic, more attentive. You become all these things, and the physicality is multiplied because now you're doing it from the inside out. Like it's more magical, more evolved. It becomes a spiritual encounter.
It's
It
an
becomes a
experience.
spiritual
Yeah.
encounter. And instead of like when you're angry within a relationship, arguing and getting physical, it's like, can we sit down and can we talk about this? And can we agree to disagree? Can we fight fair and walk away from the conversation in love, or even come back and talk when cooler heads prevail? To do you argue to win, or do you argue to come to a resolution and become better? So that's the difference.
I like what you're saying, because people are also attached to emotions.
Big time.
People are attached to feeling anger. People are attached to feeling sad. People are attached to feeling, playing the victim, or being high all the time, having that go, have to do, be busy all the time. People are attached to emotions. So be open to everything and attached to nothing, including, like Russell said, the physicality, which is physical, which is material. Is what I could touch, what I could see. And we should be looking for what we feel energetically, and what we could experience in the moment, because that is what our consciousness takes with us beyond this physical vessel. So, all right.
One more thing, because this is stuff that we've talked about before in the past, being attached to your ego.
That's the ego runs the attachments, if you understand that, because when the ego drops, spirit rises, and you're doing everything from a place of a loving, unconditional, loving heart posture. But the ego wants to survive, and it wants to keep all this other stuff going. So not being attached to the ego, for sure.
And that looks like, I'm from Harvard, I'm from Yale, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer, like all these things. And it's like, I pride myself that that's the last thing I think of. The last thing I think about is my job title, where I went to college. All of that stuff. Those are things that I did or I do, but that's not who I am.
And guys, I mean, it's wonderful. I think when you could set a goal and you could reach it, I think it's so wonderful. I think it does so much for you, especially depending on where you come from. Sometimes you might have been the only person to go to college in your immediate family. So you getting that college degree was for everyone in your family. So we're not saying that, but what we are saying is that, and I posted a post not long ago saying that sometimes you actually have to unbecome all the things you thought you needed to do. Like you thought maybe you had to go to Harvard to get some type of validation. You thought you had to go get that next degree and that next degree and that next degree because you wanted to do something and you felt that would make you feel accepted, when your gift is there. And is waiting for it to be unwrapped and open. And the degree, although I think depending on what it is, it could help enhance your own natural gifts. So that's a good one. That was a good one. All right. So we talked about why it's important. We talked about several things that we are attached to. Now let's talk about, how do we do it? How do we put this in practice on a daily basis so that we are open to growth and to evolving and to raising our consciousness so that we could get what is out there for us, all right, as we raise in dimensions of consciousness. So I think it starts with a mindset. I think the first thing we have to understand is that all is temporary. All of it. Life is very fleeting and things are very temporary. Even the closest people that you have is temporary. So when you can understand that and really accept that within the being that you are, you're going to be more open to new things, being in the present moment, letting things flow in and flow out like water. You know, you got to be like water. You just take form of what it is. You don't hold on. You don't hold on tight. And I think if you could start with that first mindset that everything is temporary, it'll really set the tone.
Yeah, and I just think that if all of us are just trying to become the best versions of ourselves and constantly evolving, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, that we're going to strengthen ourselves to the point where you don't become attached. Like, say, for example, a relationship, once again, being codependent, where you're almost, like they say, the narcissist. Like you need that person to become like your supply. Like you need their energy to survive. You know, you don't want to be that person. You want to get your energy from the Most High. You need to go within yourself to get that energy instead of outside of yourself. And I think the more that we do that, the less attached we are to other things, because it's like you'll really start to enjoy your own company. You'll start to understand that solitude does not mean loneliness. You know, so, you know, when you're not in a relationship or you're home alone or whatever, you should be able to find some level of enjoyment in feeding your mind, you know, your body, your soul, there's so many different things that people can do, but we're so attached to this world. That's why it says be in this world, but not of it, you know? So it's like, you can't even really be attached to this body. You got to know how sometimes to detach. That's what meditation's all about, to detach and to become one with nature, become one with the wind and the sun and the trees and the animals. Like, just sometimes release. Don't be attached to all this stuff, and release. And you'll see that it really will change the way that you see the world, the way that you see other people. And you'll start to see that not only is God within you, God is within everybody. And when you're encountering people, you're really encountering sparks of the divine within each and every one of us. You know, whether we know it or not, that's the reality in which we live in. And that's part of the message that we're trying to get out to people. Yeah. But it takes work. Yep. It takes individual work. It's nothing that nobody can give to you. You could only give it to yourself. Yep. And that's, all we could do is just encourage people to investigate, to want to go deeper and want to learn more. Yeah, and that's the truth. And that's what we're wanting to give, is what we could do daily to practice detachment. So research what you don't know before speaking on it, before having an opinion on it. I try really, really hard to reserve my opinions and my comments on things that I have not researched for myself, that I have not personally experienced, that I don't know anything about. And that I would just be making a statement based on how I feel, you know, or passing judgment. Because that's what it is. If we don't know anything about it, we're making it out of our own emotions or our judgment. So research things that you don't know before speaking on it. And also, everything doesn't require you to speak on it. That is so true. Just sitting back, looking what has transpired over the last 2 or 3 years, how many relationships have been dissolved over whether or not they should get the vaccine, or, whether or not they agree with Kyrie or disagree. It's like a lot of times some of these things don't even require you to say anything, just sit back. Now, if the opportunity permitted itself where you could actually make a difference, yeah, but
Yeah.
like, just my opinion's not needed on every single thing that pops up. And then also 9 times out of 10 in a short little text, you're not going to be able to say everything you want to say. Is going to get misconstrued. That's why things like podcasts and so forth, to allow you to expand on issues, is important. So if you really feel that strongly about something, it's like you have a platform, use your voice to speak something out in its entirety and clearly. It's like a lot of times people say, I don't like the way they're making us look out there or whatever, but you have a platform that's totally free to tell your own story, tell your story.
Exactly. And another thing, guys, what you speak is actually what you are putting out to come back to yourself. All right. Because in a oneness, what I tell Russell is what I'm telling myself. All right. So I am very careful with the words I choose. I'm very careful with how I speak, because words have energy, words have power, and we are actually affirming every single word. I mean, I think it's amazing that, the Most High put us in this on this platform with this podcast, because it is a part of activating the throat chakra. The throat chakra is about being able to speak in a way that is loving, that is understanding, and that what you're speaking on, no matter what you say out, you're putting it out because this is what's going to come back to you. So every word that you put out there, know that that's what you're going to get back to you. So just keep that in mind. So like he said, some things we don't have to speak on, but if you're going to speak on it, research it, understand it from different perspectives and different views before you even speak on it.
And you're expressing your soul, and your words are your soul's blueprint and identity. So if every word that comes out of your mouth is foul and degrading, and what does that have to say for your spirit? Because it's like,
and words hold a vibration. There's and then depending on the emphasis, the emotion that you put behind the word, it makes it even more powerful. So things can manifest like that with just the words. So imagine if you're using negative wording, how fast that comes back to you. And sometimes it comes back in sickness. Sometimes it comes back in dis-ease in the body, pain or hurt or whatever it is. But it always comes back to us.
The word don't come back, but something equal and opposite will definitely come back. And just think of how many hearts have been broken with words. And, like the saying is, it's like, it takes longer for a broken heart to heal than a broken bone.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually always words. It's always words.
Watch your words.
Yeah. And know that information is always changing and evolving. I think you mentioned that earlier. Even things that we've said last year is, I could go back and listen to some of the podcasts and be like, I would have said that differently, or I would have expanded on that differently. Information is always changing. I mean, I've learned so much this year. It's incredible. It's incredible, but I'm open to learning. I mean, I'm learning so much, even about our genealogy, our lineage, so many things, but we're researching it. We're doing the work. To uncover it.
Trying to become better.
Yeah. I want to say that the only thing that is constant is change. So if you have an issue with adapting to change, go deeper and try to figure out why that is so. Because everything's changing. Technology, information, science, all of us are changing. So we can't be attached to staying the same. We cannot. And the easier we can adapt to change, I think the easier life becomes.
There's a quote, I can't remember who said it, based upon what you just said. They said that it's not so much about the survival of the fittest. They're saying it's not the strong that will survive. It's the one that's most adaptable to change, because change is going to occur. And it goes back to something we said on maybe podcast 2 or 3 years back, right? That, all the way from, it took all the way up to the 1900s for information to double. And then from 1900 to 2000, it took 100 years to double. And then from 2000 to 220, it doubled. And now 220, say right now, it's doubling.
I mean,
almost every 72 days.
It has to be at an all-time high.
Information is changing. So going back to, say, before the 1900s and the 1600s, 1700s, and we said this one time before, if I had relatives who were up in New York and I'm down in Georgia, and I wanted to send them through mail, snail mail back in the day, like a letter to say, hey, we want to come visit you guys this summer in July for 4th of July. It would go by horse and buggy, get to the mail. They might not see that letter for months. Then they respond. We might not see it for months. And then, we have to respond and finalize. So it could take months literally to make that decision. Whereas now with a cell phone, you could literally just text, not only up, say, north to New York to China or whatever, in milliseconds. Mm-hmm. We could text and they could text back. We can make decisions within the next 5-10 minutes that it took our great-great-grandparents months to do. So we have to be 10 times sharper than they were, because we have to make decisions quicker. Our children have grown up in this technological era. Yeah. So it's like they don't know anything other than this. So it's like, as beings, we're constantly evolving, the brain's changing. These kids are born with their eyes open quicker. They're taking in more information. They're having to mature faster. We didn't have to deal with a lot of the things that they're dealing with. So we have to parent different as well. Yeah. So it's a whole different era.
And because information is coming in so fast, it's at an all-time high, you have to really understand what's important in a non-physical way. So I don't think technology should never surpass spirituality. Yes. Okay? Because at the end of the day, that's still material. All right. Technology is still materialism. And that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, that's something we want to, attach to, and we should not attach to technology, not to the point where it surpasses spirituality and who we are as spiritual beings. So,
and that's why society right now is in trouble, because if you put technology in the hands of
that's what's happened.
People with low morality, then things happen. Like people, like right now we have all these shootings, and they're wanting to talk about gun control. So it's not so much, a gun can either protect you or it can be used to go out and create harm. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things, like even religion, it's neutral. It can be used for great good. It can be used for great evil. So it depends on whose hands that this is in. But based upon what she was saying, is when we get to a situation where technology has surpassed man's spirituality and humanity and his moral ability, then we have issues. Mm-hmm. So that's why right now it's so important. We have to be 10 times more spiritual. Our children have to be 10 times more spiritually developed. And that's why there's such an attack on spirit and
Through the
on
music,
even on
everything.
good religion.
Mhm.
Good. I'm not gonna say all, but
Yeah.
good religion.
And I think we're at a point now, because you mentioned, just teaching our children about spirituality. I think it's really important now because we are in a technology, very highly advanced in technology, that we have to become creative with spirituality and getting it to our kids. And we have to we got to cut to the chase, and we don't need all these fillers. We need our kids to know that God is within them. All right. You are already loved. You don't have to do anything. You come here and there's things that are trying to program you, but you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You are already God, and you are already it. So when you tap into God, that's all you need. So we need to just go straight to it and let our kids know who they are, instead of forcing them into practicing rituals. That's all I want to say.
That's the one thing that we do need to be attached to, is that great spirit. No matter what you call it, even an atheist or an agnostic, they know that there's something out there. It may not be what they feel is in some of the books like the Bible, the Quran, the Torahs. They may not believe in God in that sense, but the spirit exists, energy exists.
And that same energy is what moves your body, animates your body, talks, vibrates,
causes the sun to rise.
It's there, and everybody
Stars
has
in
it.
motion,
Exactly.
galaxies in motion.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for that, or what's responsible for that? There's laws.
So we just need to let our kids know, boop, right there, and not have to go through this becoming and unbecoming process. Although I know that is a part of the soul's evolution, and sometimes that is a part of the soul journey. So sometimes, no matter what we do or try to help people into awakening to that, they are on their own timeline. The soul is on their own timeline. So we just drop seeds when we can. And when people are ready to pick it up, they'll pick it up, they'll eat it, they'll come back for more feeding. That's how it works. We don't have to force anything on anybody, but we could drop the seeds. I got one more thing that I want to add to this. Be open to everything and attached to nothing. So remember, and don't even be attached to the things people do and tell you. And what I mean by that is everybody is reacting and responding based on their own level of consciousness. Okay, so you have people on different levels of consciousness, and consciousness is about knowledge and understanding. All right. So what a child that is 5 years old will understand compared to a child that is 17 years old is two different levels, right? So I can't expect a 5-year-old to understand what I would tell a 17-year-old. So that 5-year-old typically, if they don't get what they want, they cause temper tantrums, they fall on the floor crying, making a scene, right? Because that's what 5-year-olds do. I just want everybody to understand, in these bodies, you have 40-year-old people that are really 5-year-olds in consciousness, okay? They're a new soul, they're a young soul, and we got old souls. All right. So our soul's journey, although we may be in an older body, a younger body, the soul could have a lot of years behind it. People are always responding to their level of consciousness. So sometimes you have to just step back, observe how they're responding and reacting to you, and say, you know what? They don't even understand what I'm saying. It makes no sense for me to even put my energy here and try to get them to understand it. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and based upon what you're saying, is social maturity. Like you can find 50-year-old people and 40-year-old people who are socially immature. They never really mastered their emotions.
Yep.
Like don't
Master
know where
themselves.
things go.
Yep.
And it's there's a saying, it says sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war. It's like, don't always have to be right. And the thing is, I think I posted this one time before, is the person that you're trying to convey the message to is more important than you being right.
Yeah.
So it's like, at the end of the day, if you're really trying to get your message through and you really love that person, or you really feel that you're offering them something that's going to help enhance their life, then it's like, do that. It's not so much about being right and bickering and antagonizing people. So
yeah. So that's it. Did you have anything else?
we could talk about this until
Yeah.
the cows come home,
but we wanted to talk about being open to everything and attached to nothing. All right. Don't attach yourself to no titles, no roles, no relationships, no politics, no religion, no materialism. And when you think about that, it's like so freeing, because it's like, I'm just spirit and I'm just free. I have roles, I do things, because I'm in this body, but none of it I'm attached to. And when you can surrender all of that, it's like, whew.
Especially if it's not working for your greater good and the greater good of humanity.
Exactly.
If it is, use it. It's like everything's a toolbox.
Exactly.
Everything's a toolbox. And sometimes you have to put the tools back in the box.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up. This has been another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. And we're actually at the end of season 3. And it's been so much fun. We've learned so much. We've met so many people. We've collaborated with so many people. And I am just so grateful, as we're in this Thanksgiving week. I'm so grateful for what this podcast has done for us, for other people, how it is really just stretched us in so many ways. I'm grateful to our viewers and our listeners. And thank you for growing with us. And I'm looking forward to what is to come in season 4 and even beyond that. So I'm in a lot of gratitude.
Great stories. So if you have a great story, reach out to us, and or if you have some topics that you would like for us to speak on or expound on, send that as well, and we'll consider it.
Yep. All right, guys. So take care. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy Thanksgiving, and we will catch you guys next time.
Peace.
Take care.